Hey guys, in this video, we are still dealing with quadratic function word problems. However, we're going to kick it up a notch with this one by using area or finding area of a rectangles. So I am a visual learner, so you're going to see that I tend to draw pictures to represent our word problems here, and I would strongly encourage you to do the same, as these particular word problems could be kind of tricky to figure out what they're telling you information-wise, and then also what they're asking you. So let's go ahead and dive right on into this. So we have a rectangular picture, has a width that is 2 times wider than its length. Okay, so I'm going to start out by drawing a picture of this rectangle. Okay, so we have a rectangle, and it's saying that it has a width 2 times wider than its length. Okay, so it never gives me the value or the amount or the dimension of its length. So I'm going to use the variable x. I'm choosing x just because that's a common one that is used in the math language to represent things that we do not know. Then it goes on to say that it has a width that is 2 times wider than the length. So again, we don't know what the length is, but we do know and are given the information that the width is 2 times the length. Okay, so here I have a picture representing the information that was given, and it's also letting me know that the area is 50. So we know that we have length times width, and that gives us our area. We're going to use that exact same concept here. We're going to do x times 2x, and our area we know is 50. Okay, so solving this particular equation, we know that we have x times 2x. I'm going to leave the coefficient there, and x times x is x squared, and that is equal to 50. Okay, so we're going to start using our inverse operations here to solve. So the inverse or opposite of multiplying, because that's technically what's happening there, by 2 is going to be dividing by 2. Let's go ahead and divide that by 2. And we are given, after we do that, 2 divided by 2 is 1, so x squared is equal to 50 divided by 2 is 25. Okay, so this should look familiar at this point. We know that the inverse or the opposite of squaring something is taking the square root. So I'm going to take the square root of x squared, and that's going to give me x. And then I'm going to take the square root of 25, and we now know in Math 1 that that could be a positive 5 and a negative 5, because 5 times 5 is 25, but also negative 5 times negative 5 is 25. But let's go back up and look at this word problem to figure out which value we need. So this word problem is asking for the dimensions, and so we're talking about a length and a width of a rectangle. So we know that that has to be our positive numbers, okay? So it cannot be negative, so I'm going to pull out the positive 5 here. Okay, now we still have a little bit more work to do because it's not asking me what x was, it's asking for the dimension. So I do have one side being x. So one side of the rectangle could be 5, but the other one is 2x, or 2 times 5, and that is 10. So your dimensions of your rectangle is the length is 5, and the width is equal to 10. Okay, so bear with me, guys, because we have a total of 4 examples in this video, and that was just the first one. Okay, let's go ahead and dive into the next example. And we are talking about you expand your square living room by increasing the width 4 feet and the length 6 feet. Okay, bring this up. I have more room to write. Okay, so we, again, visual person. So it's saying that I'm expanding my square living room by increasing. And then also, if I look at my question, it's saying, what are the dimensions of the original living room? So I'm going to draw out a picture. So I have my original living room, and it's asking for those dimensions. I have no idea what they are, but I do know it is a square. And a square has all sides that are the same. So both of those sides, I'm going to use the same variable, because if I used an x and a z, that could or should, because of two different variables represent 2 different numbers. So I'm going to use the same variable because it is a square, or it starts off being a square. Then it says that they do some expanding, and they expand the width by 4. So it was x and they're adding 4. And the length by 6. It was x and they're adding 6. So I am not going to be looking at my original so far anymore. I'm going to be using the expansion to really figure out the answer to my question. Okay, I also know that it has the area of 224. Okay, so I'm going to do length times width, x plus 6 times x plus 4, and set that equal to 224. Okay, now you can use FOIL from this point, or you could use your area model, whichever one that you prefer. Okay, so you have x squared, positive 6x, 4x, and a 24. Okay, so when you combine those all together, you would have x squared plus 6x plus 4x plus 24 is equal to 224. Now you could also use FOIL, which is first, outer, inner, last. I will let you choose the operation that you want to use. And we needed just to continue to solve this problem by combining our like terms before we start doing anything else. So our like terms there are x squared, and we had that 6x and 4x. I'm going to combine for 10x plus 24 is equal to 224. Now we're not done yet, because in order to solve these, remember, I need to have my equation equal to 0. So right now I have a 224 hanging out here on the right-hand side. I'm going to use the inverse operation of subtracting, because 224 there was a positive number. And I know it's going to work because 224 subtract 224 now gives me that 0 value I was looking for. So we have x squared plus 10x. When I do this operation of positive 24 minus 224, I get negative 220. Okay, from this point, you can use the quadratic, or not quadratic formula. You could use the quadratic formula, that was part was right, or factoring. Okay, I am going to go with factoring, and before... No, I just hit clear everything, and I was trying to do the eraser because my final answer was wrong. So x squared plus 10x, it was supposed to be subtract 220 is equal to 0. I had 224 there. Nope, I was supposed to be subtract 200. I had 220 there. It was supposed to be subtract 200. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and factor this, but you are welcome to use a quadratic formula on this one. But we are going to finish out the video in example 3 and 4 doing the quadratic formula anyways. So the two numbers that I can multiply to get negative 200, but add to give me a positive 10. I know this number somewhere has to have a negative. So one that needs to be subtracting and one needs to be adding over here. Okay, so if I do negative 10 and a 20 over here, so because I know that 10 times 20, negative 10, sorry, times 20 is going to give me that negative 200 value. But if I add positive 20 and a negative 10, I'm going to get that particular value. So I'm good there, check my work, and now I'm going to set each of these equal to 0. X is equal to positive 10 in this case, and x is equal to negative 20 in this case. I am not going to be able to use the negative value because we're talking about dimensions of a rectangle and a square, really, because this one was asking for the original, which was x and x all the way around. We found our x, so our length in this case was 10, and it was a square, so our width is also 10. Okay, we got 2 more videos. I meant examples in this video. Okay, so we have a rectangle has the length of, move that word problem out of the way there for us. So the rectangle has a length that is 4 meters more than the width. The area of the rectangle is 117. So again, I'm a visual person. I'm going to go ahead and draw in a rectangle. Okay, it has a length that is 4 meters more than the width. It's not telling me what the width value is, so I'm going to use x. But I do know that the length is 4 meters longer than that. And I know that the area is 117. Area formula is length times width, so I am going to multiply those two. I'm going to put the second set there in parentheses because it's all together. Equals 117. Now I'm going to do x times x and then x times 4, just like we would do the regular distributive property with numbers. That gives me x squared plus 4 is equal to 117. Remember, this has to be set to 0 in order to actually use the quadratic formula or factoring. So in order to have it set equal to 0, I needed to subtract on both sides. Okay, I am going to suggest that we use the quadratic formula for this, which is x is equal to negative b plus or minus radical b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so what I'm going to plug into the calculator is x is equal to negative b here is going to be negative 4 plus or minus radical b squared minus, it's always 4, times a, which is 1, times c, which is negative 117, all over 2a, which is 2 times 1. Okay, I'm going to head on over here into our Desmos calculator. And we're going to do x is equal to negative b. Oops, I need that whole entire set there in parentheses before I do anything. So my calculator here in Desmos knows to divide by all over 2a. Or divide everything by 2a. So x is equal to negative b plus or minus radical b squared minus 4 times a times c. Okay, close that parentheses, all over 2a, which was 2 times 1, which is 2. Okay, so I have a positive value of 9. Okay, now let's just make sure that my other one is not positive as well, a negative value of negative 13. So I know in my particular problem, I have to have x is equal to 9 because I'm dealing with dimensions of a rectangle. So x is equal to 9. Okay, but remember my question asked for the dimensions, which is your length times width. So one length, or one width in this case, is 9, that original x. But my length was 4 meters longer than that. So 9 plus 4 will give you your length, and that is 13. So your final answer is 9 and 13, finding that length and the width. Okay, we have one more to go through here. Okay, so a rectangle has a width that is 5 feet less than its length. So I'm going to go ahead and again draw a rectangle here. It has a width that is 5 feet less than its length, so I'm not given its length, but I do know that the width is 5 feet less than that. So I'm going to subtract 5, and I have that the area is 126. So x times x minus 5 is equal to 126. Using the distributive property like I usually would, if there was legit numbers in there. And then x times negative 5 is negative 5x is equal to 126. Remember, this has to be set equal to 0 before I can do any factoring or quadratic equations. So I'm going to subtract 126 on both sides. Those are not like terms. So I have x squared minus 5x minus 126 is equal to 0. I'm going to suggest us using the quadratic formula. Minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so in this quadratic formula, we have x is equal to negative b is already or the opposite of b. So b is currently right now negative 5, so negative b would be positive 5 squared. X is equal to negative b. It's not squared. Plus or minus radical b squared. I'm going to put that negative 5 in parentheses, just so my calculator, once I plug it in, it's going to know to take actually negative 5 times negative 5. Negative b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a, which is 2 times 1. Okay, so let's head right on back into Desmos. Clear all of this out. Put in my parentheses so my calculator knows to divide everything by 2 times 1, or 2a. So x is equal to negative b plus or minus radical b squared, so negative 5 squared. Again, I'm putting parentheses so it knows negative 5 times negative 5. Okay, minus 4 times A times C, which was negative 126. Close that parentheses, so we divide everything by 2A, which is just 2, because 2A is 2 times 1. So we have 14 as my positive x, and negative 9. I'm going to go with 14, because we are talking about a rectangle. So we need positive side lengths. Okay, so in this particular problem, x is equal to 14. So that was my length. So length is equal to 14. And I know that the width is 5 feet less than that. So 14 minus 5 is equal to 9. Okay, so I have 14 and 9 as my possible side lengths, or not my possible, my actual side lengths to this particular rectangle. Again, as always, I hope this guided practice video has helped you, and I am a private comment on Google Classroom or an email away if you need any assistance from me. Best of luck today on your independent practice assignment.